Cade Ashford stood at the tall window of his study, looking out over the dark forest that belonged to his pack. The moon was full and bright, but it brought him no peace. It never did anymore. 10 years had passed since the night his mate disappeared, and every full moon reminded him of the emptiness she left behind. He was the Alpha King of the Blackwood Pack, the strongest wolf in the Northern Territories, feared and respected by every pack that bordered his land. Yet none of that power had ever brought her back. On the night of her presentation ceremony, when she was supposed to stand before the pack and be named his Luna, she had vanished. No scent trail, no sound, no warning. One moment she was there, laughing beside him, and the next, she was simply gone. For years, the pack had whispered that she rejected him, that she ran because she was afraid of the responsibility, afraid of him, afraid of the crown he would one day wear. Cade had told himself the same story so many times that he almost believed it. Almost. Tonight, his counsel had pushed him harder than ever. Old Beta Mercer stood near the fireplace, arms crossed, his voice steady but firm. Cade, the pack needs a Luna. It has needed one for years. The other packs question our strength, because our throne is empty beside you. You cannot keep waiting for a memory. Cade's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, but deep down, he knew Mercer was right. A king without a Luna was seen as weak, no matter how many battles he had won. The bond that should have anchored him to a partner had instead become an open wound that never healed. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he let the words leave his mouth. Find me a new Luna. The words tasted like ash, but he said them anyway. Mercer nodded, relief clear on his face, and left the room to spread the order through the pack. Cade stayed by the window long after the door closed, staring at the moon, wondering if he was betraying a bond that had already betrayed him first. Word spread quickly. Within days, candidates arrived from neighboring packs, hoping to catch the eye of the Alpha King. Some were confident, some shy, some clearly sent by ambitious parents hoping to gain power through marriage. Cade greeted each one with polite words and empty eyes. None of them made his wolf stir. None of them smelled right. None of them felt like home. He grew more tired with each passing day, more convinced that he was simply going through the motions of a life he no longer wanted. But duty was duty, and a king did not have the luxury of chasing feelings that led nowhere. Then came the night that changed everything. A group of his scouts had been tracking suspicious activity near the border of a rival pack known as the Hollow Fang clan. Rumors had reached Cade's ears about illegal trafficking happening in the shadows, wolves, and even humans being taken and sold to whoever paid the highest price. It was a matter Cade could not ignore, both as a king protecting his territory and as someone who could not stand cruelty of that kind. He decided to lead the raid himself. Under the light of the midnight moon, Cade and his most trusted warriors moved silently through the dense trees bordering the Hollow Fang compound. The plan was simple: locate the hidden holding cells, free anyone trapped inside, and bring the guilty to justice. The compound was quiet, too quiet, which put every wolf on edge. Cade signaled his men forward, and they slipped past weak patrols with practiced ease. When they found the entrance to an underground cellar hidden beneath an old barn, Cade felt a strange pull in his chest, a feeling he could not explain. His wolf, usually silent and controlled, suddenly became restless, pacing beneath his skin like it sensed something important waiting below. He descended the stone steps first, ignoring the protests of his guards who wanted to go ahead of him. The air grew colder with every step, damp and heavy with the smell of rust and fear. Rows of cells lined the narrow hallway, most of them empty, some holding weak, exhausted captives who flinched away from the torches his men carried. Then he reached the last cell at the end of the hall, and everything in his world stopped. A woman sat curled in the corner, wrists and ankles bound in chains, lined with silver, the metal burning into her skin even now. Her hair was tangled and dull, her body thin from years of neglect, her eyes wide and frightened as the torchlight fell over her. She looked broken, hollow, like a candle burned down to nothing. But the scent. It hit Cade like a wave crashing over him, pulling the breath from his lungs. 10 years of silence, 10 years of telling himself she was gone forever, and suddenly, impossibly, she was right there in front of him, his mate, alive. For a moment, Cade could not move. His entire body locked in place, his mind refusing to accept what his senses were screaming at him. Then instinct took over, and he rushed forward, dropping to his knees in front of the cell. "Open it!" he ordered, his voice cracking with an emotion he had not allowed himself to feel in years. "Open it now." His men worked quickly, breaking the lock and pulling the door aside. Cade reached for her, but the moment his hand touched her arm, she flinched violently, pulling away with a small, broken sound that tore through his chest like a blade. "It's all right," he said softly, lowering himself so he was not looming over her. "I am not going to hurt you, I promise." She stared at him with empty, confused eyes, as if she did not understand his words, as if she did not know who he was at all. That realization hurt more than anything Cade had felt in the past decade. She did not recognize him. Carefully, gently, he reached for the silver chains binding her wrists. The metal burned his palms as he pulled them apart, but he did not care. Pain meant nothing compared to the fear in her eyes. Once the chains fell away, he lifted her into his arms, and though she trembled, she did not fight him. Perhaps some part of her, buried deep beneath the fear and confusion, still remembered the safety of his touch. He carried her out of that cellar himself, refusing every offer from his guards to help. The walk back through the forest felt endless, but he did not stop, did not rest, until they were far from that place and safely within the borders of his own packlands. The pack healer worked through what remained of the night, treating the wounds on her wrists and ankles, checking for injuries hidden beneath years of suffering. Cade stayed by her side the entire time, refusing to leave even when Mercer gently suggested he get some rest. "She is my mate," Cade said simply, his eyes never leaving her sleeping face. "I am not leaving her again." In the days that followed, the truth slowly came together, piece by painful piece. The healer explained that certain herbs, mixed with prolonged exposure to silver, could suppress a wolf's memory and even their connection to their own inner wolf. It explained why she could not shift, why her eyes held no recognition, why she flinched from touch, like someone who had learned that gentleness always led to pain. She had not run from him 10 years ago. She had been taken. Someone within the Hollow Fang clan, or perhaps someone working with them, had discovered the timing of her presentation ceremony and used it as an opportunity. Taking a king's mate before the bond could be sealed was one of the cruelest ways to weaken a pack, and whoever planned it had known exactly what they were doing. They stole her away, hid her, suppressed her memories and her wolf, and let the world believe she abandoned her king out of fear. Cade felt a fury unlike anything he had ever known, but beneath the anger was something heavier: guilt. He had spent 10 years believing the worst of her, letting bitterness poison the love he once felt, ordering his pack to search for a replacement while she suffered in chains, alone and forgotten. He made a silent vow that night. He would spend the rest of his life making up for every day he failed to find her. Her recovery was slow. She flinched at loud noises, avoided crowds, and often woke from sleep gasping, lost in nightmares from years of captivity. Cade never pushed her. He simply stayed close, patient and steady, letting her set the pace for everything. He learned her small habits again, the way she liked her tea slightly too sweet, the way she preferred sitting near windows where she could see the sky. Slowly, carefully, trust began to grow between them. One afternoon, weeks after her rescue, Cade found her sitting in the garden behind the pack house, staring at a small flower with a curious expression. He approached slowly, giving her time to notice him before he sat down beside her. "Do you remember this place?" he asked gently. She shook her head, but then paused, her fingers brushing over the flower petals. "It feels familiar," she whispered, "like something from a dream I cannot quite hold on to." Cade's heart ached with hope. "You used to grow these here, years ago. You said they reminded you of home." Tears filled her eyes, though she did not fully understand why. Something inside her stirred, faint but real, a memory trying desperately to surface. Cade reached for her hand, not pulling, just offering, and this time, she did not flinch away. Her fingers curled gently around his, and for the first time since he found her, she looked at him not with fear, but with quiet curiosity. Months passed. Little by little, Her memories returned, first in fragments, then in fuller pictures. She remembered her childhood in the pack, her friendship with Cade before the bond ever formed, the nervous excitement she felt on the morning of her presentation ceremony. She remembered loving him, long before either of them understood what that love would become. Her wolf returned as well, slowly waking from the deep suppression that had trapped it for so long. The first time she shifted again, standing in the moonlit clearing behind the pack house, Cade watched with tears in his eyes, as her wolf, silver and graceful, stepped forward and pressed against him, whimpering softly before letting out a long, relieved howl into the night sky. The pack rejoiced. Word spread quickly among the Blackwood territory that their lost Luna had returned, alive and healing, stronger with each passing day. The candidates who had once hoped to win Cade's attention quietly returned to their own packs, understanding without needing to be told that the king's heart had never truly been available. On the night of the next full moon, Cade led her to the edge of the pack's boundary line, the same place where their bond had once been meant to be sealed a decade before. The moonlight fell over them both, silver and soft, painting the forest in gentle light. He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I made a terrible mistake," he said quietly. "I let anger convince me. You left me by choice. I stopped searching when I should have never given up. I am sorry for every day I let you suffer while I doubted you." She squeezed his hands gently, her eyes steady and warm, no longer clouded by fear. "You found me," she said. "That is what matters now. You never stopped being mine, even when I could not remember why." Cade pressed his forehead gently against hers, breathing in the scent that had haunted him for 10 long years, the scent that had finally led him home. "There will be no new Luna," he said softly, his voice carrying across the clearing where his pack had quietly gathered to witness the moment. "There was only ever one, and I intend to spend the rest of my life proving that to her." Under the light of the full moon, surrounded by the pack that had waited just as long as he had, Cade Ashford finally completed the bond that fate had chosen for him a decade before. It was not a perfect story, not without pain or mistakes, but it was theirs, whole and true, forged not by an easy beginning, but by a love strong enough to survive even the darkest chains. And as the howls of the pack rose into the night sky, celebrating the return of their true Luna, Cade held her close, knowing that no throne, no crown, and no power could ever compare to the simple, powerful truth of finally having her safely in his arms again.